Greetings from Castle Goring from Mickey, Aurora and from me. Well, today I am going to kick off with just a little reminiscence. On Saturday evening, I went to the British Bulgarian Business Ball, which was held at the Royal Overseas Club. It used to be the townhouse of the Duke and Duchess of Rutland, rather long time ago, may I add. And it's organised by a very well-known media personality in Bulgaria called Evgeny Minchev von Bull, who is a great character. And it raises money in part for the Children's Burns Trust, which Princess Dmitrieva of Rostovsky has headed up for some time now. I have been actually affiliated with it from its very inception, which would have been in the 1980s, and it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful cause. Prince Michael of Kent is the royal patron, and it's often been patronised as well by Princess Olga Romanov, and she was there. Princess Katerina of Yugoslavia, whose grandmother was Queen Marie of Yugoslavia and whose grandfather was King Alexander of Yugoslavia. She was there and she got an award for some assistance that she has given. And Prince Dmitry Lobanov-Rostovsky, he got an award. So I'm going to post some photographs. And Yevgeny, who actually is a very gifted singer, he sang as well, aside from being the host and the organizer. And my son Dima was there as well, and Admiral Lord West was there. We all sat at the head table, obviously, and he is a great guy, really great guy. So I'll post a picture of us as well. So to see, isn't it wonderful? Life does have its celebratory moments. So now, without further ado, I will plunge in to the more controversial and the less celebratory aspects of life. Our list says, Lady C, what do you make of Mike Tindall's revelation that marrying into the royal family was easy? Is this a subtle fight back by the family? I love it. Well, he's publishing a book. He had to recount how he was absorbed into the family, and he made a very simple point. They were very nice to him, he was very nice to them, and everything went along swimmingly. Now, speaking the truth can be very helpful, can't it? Especially when you have a hustler who is intent on being a victim because she plays the game persecutor as victim. Every concession, and she got far more concessions than anybody else got. Catherine, Mike Tindall, none of them got the concessions that that rather odious creature called Meghan Markle got. But then again, none of them is nasty the way Meghan Markle, in my opinion and now experience, is. So, is it subtle fight back by the family? Yes and no. Speaking the truth to counteract an abusive lie is your duty. It's more than fight back. It's your duty. Teresa says, Lady C, calls from Barbados PM, Mia Mottley, for the UK to pay billions for its role in the slave trade has been branded ironic, owing to that country's links to China and its enslaved population. As a proud West Indian, what are your thoughts on the matter? I love it. Thank you very much, Teresa. Farcical. Farcical. I am dead against reparations on the grounds that the citizens of a country, many of whom are people of colour, cannot be made liable for sins that their ancestors either did or didn't, or people who weren't their ancestors committed. It goes to the cornerstone of what justice is all about. I am responsible for my actions. I'm not responsible for my many times great-grandparents' actions. Also, why is Mia Mottley, who incidentally is very well known to great friends of mine, who actually rather admire her, why is she hopping on this bandwagon and beating this drum? They're all doing the same thing in the West Indies. At the very moment that they're selling their futures to the Chinese and don't care about the fact that many Chinese are enslaved. Well, why should they? They're not black people. Except they've forgotten that their black people sold them into slavery. So, why aren't they asking for reparations from the Kingdom of Benin, for instance? What about Ghana? Not that they should be asking for reparations from anybody, black or white, because no black man today is responsible for what black men did 300 and 400 or even 200 years ago, any more than white men are. Well, it also is a way of keeping the victim narrative going and the race baiting relevant. Because, you know, yes, there were problems. Yes, some black people have suffered for what happened in the past. Many have benefited recently. All the West Indian governments have been on a very generous aid since independence. These countries have been independent for something like 60 years. Just how long are these people going to expect to have their hands out so that citizens of the United Kingdom, black, white, brown, yellow, pink, and green, have to pay these countries because they had slavery? I mean, and also, most of the money, I've got news for you, never trickles down The late John Pringle, who was a minister or plenipotentiary in the United Kingdom for decades, he founded Round Hill. He told me in 1973 that one of the members of the PNP government had salted away, to his certain knowledge, $60 million in the year and a bit that they had been in power in Switzerland. We shouldn't give a penny. Nobody should give a penny. And I now speak as a Jamaican. We should be too proud to receive a penny. Well, they're going to try to create this whole scenario. And this is partly as well to cover up for their ineffectuality and their incompetence. Let's be blunt about what's really going on. I'm a victim, therefore you must support me. Well, I thought they said the days of slavery were over. Paternalism is at an end. Well, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom's spokesman has made it absolutely clear. I said, just to be clear, reparations are not on the agenda for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. Technically, the government's position on this has not changed. We do not pay reparations, nor should anybody pay reparations. Slavery was a fact of life from the beginning of civilization until long after the British spearheaded the abolition of not only the slave trade, but slavery itself. If everybody in the present is held responsible for omissions and commissions and sins of the past, where will the world ever get to? Leslie Boschel says, did you hear about Taylor Swift being granted security agreed to by the Labour government, which has opened the floodgates for Harry to claim he should get that level of security too, as he is more deserving being royal than a mere pop star? If he is granted this, he will qualify for his IPP status next and will be able to continue with his covert, dodgy dealings undercover. This Labour government have already made some serious cock-ups. They haven't been in power 5 minutes. What do you say, Lady C? Well, the Chalkers Islands, given up already. I mean, they've not been in power for 20 minutes and they're already not only selling the family silver, giving it away, at the very moment that they're trying to steal from other people. They're determined to clear Britain of all its millionaires and billionaires. Do they think that the Soviet Union in its heyday, with nothing on the shelves, endless queues for shops, one for bread, one for this, one for that, is the way forward? I mean, well, evidently Taylor Swift's mother demanded that she would cancel her concerts here if she didn't get the level of security that she demanded, because there had been an incident elsewhere. Well, they could have cancelled. Some people would have lost some money, but I actually don't think, putting all of that aside, that this impacts in any way whatsoever upon Harry's demands for IPP status and the restoration of his security. Sorry, I have a cold, and I'm just going to. Isn't it nice to actually be able to mop your nose with a cold? So, it shows that the government is responsive to approaches to be charitable. It also shows that their naivety is beyond belief. But the people of Britain voted them into power. Let's be clear about this. We live in a democracy. If people had wanted a responsible government, they could have voted for people who had a history of capability and responsibility. But they chose not to. They were doing a protest vote against the Conservative Party with their cock-ups and their inefficiency and their, quite frankly, disgusting behaviour in power. They should never have toppled Boris Johnson. Everything thereafter was just pure folly. The people elected Boris Johnson to be Prime Minister, not Rishi Sunak. But you know, the flaw in democracy is obvious. People have to elect black dogs and monkeys, as the Jamaicans would put it. And when the choice is between a black dog and a monkey, I'm afraid it's not much of a choice. Mildred Snyder says, "Dear Lady C, fight the good fight. I certainly intend to. These people are scum. I couldn't agree more. When they try to turn something with such obvious good intentions into a negative and destructive attack is beyond low. Well, it's the criminality behind it that is actually outstanding, and the maliciousness behind it, and the manipulativeness behind it. Since they can't get somebody cleanly, they get them dirtily. But that's what happens when scum reigns supreme. Have you heard that Meghan is attempting to change the narrative yet again by saying that she is, the most bullied person on the internet, when in fact she is a confirmed bully? I'd have said the confirmed bully. She's also the confirmed Machiavellian plotter whose plots and schemes somehow result in the hoped for destruction of the careers of people who are trying to hold her to account because she behaves in the most appalling manner when she is supposed to be behaving in a socially acceptable manner. She truly puts the bull into bullying. What are your thoughts on this? Take care. Oh, there's no doubt in my mind that Meghan Markle is the most dreadful bully. She is a frowsy, uppity nonentity who has deluded herself because she used the slender talents she had to climb the ladder vertically with using every horizontal technique available. She's multifaceted, and she has succeeded in reaching where she wanted and has cocked it up gloriously. She's the most bullied person on the internet. How is she bullied? Who's bullying her? I don't see anybody bullying her. I see people calling her to account for her disgusting behaviour, for the lies she has told, for her errant hypocrisy, for her flagrant, in-your-face contempt for all the civilized rules and regulations that actually make society a better place. She is a power-crazed hustler who has a few cack-handed phrases that she throws out. She is a bully. She has been declared to be a narcissistic sociopath, and her behaviour certainly shows it. Her conduct is truly remarkable and offensive. Where I am concerned, let's wait and see what happens. Let's wait and see what happens. I sincerely hope that any electronic trail doesn't lead back to Montecito. I actually think that she's too clever for that. But do I think of her past conduct that she was hoping that she would be able to destroy my reputation and career, or that people affiliated with her or close to her or supporters of her would be able to destroy it, and she would be able to go, goody goody gumdrops, yet another scalp. I think so, yes. I go purely off her past demeanour. And of course, I have no doubt that what rarely gets her with me is that I'm authentically Jamaican. She's an American who has passed for white for most of her life, but now mischievously plays the race card. She plays every card. People like Meghan should be prevented from having any part to play in public life, in my opinion. Let's wait and see what happens. Princess Dumbarton says, did the time period when the fraud was being done coincide with Meghan's recent disappearance? More than one viewer observes that they can't understand why GoFundMe don't call in the police themselves. Do you? Well, funnily enough, the time period while the fraud against me was being concocted does coincide absolutely with when Meghan was disappeared. Now, is that coincidence? Does it even connect with her? I'm too attached to my money to say any more than that's what the time frame is. Any conclusions people wish to draw, they are at liberty to draw them. And why don't GoFundMe call in the police themselves? Very good question. Why don't they call in the police themselves? They have confirmed to me that I did not set up the account, that my account with them wasn't hacked, and they set it up. Somebody in their organization set it up. That is identity theft. That is wire fraud. That is fraud, just regular fraud as well. I mean, the list of criminal actions that one creation of a fake account is quite extraordinary. Why don't they call in the police? Why don't they call in the FBI? They've broken the RICO Act. This is really very serious. I have no doubt they're trying to protect themselves, but let's see what happens. Because I'm equally determined to have them brought to account and to pay in every single way that it is possible to pay and that it is desirable for them to pay for their attempt to destroy my reputation, to my career, and to ruin my life. All because I was naive enough to start an account with them thinking they were a reputable organization. Homeless Greg Gaines says, so if the second account is set up using your bank details, then wouldn't the money go to you before it can be dispersed? So what is their purpose? Do they say what the money is for? Sorry asking so many questions. It's intriguing, and you're not the only person who is perplexed by that. Yes, they set it up knowing the money would come to me. That's how I know that this is malafides. That's how I know that this was a deliberate attempt to destroy my reputation and my credibility. Because I didn't set up the account. I didn't know the account existed. I had no means of knowing it. And I'm afraid I'm not scratching around for every 10 and 25 pounds that would come into an account. An obscure account, by the way. So, had they been more patient, had the plotters been more patient, after GoFundMe obliged them by setting up the phony account, stealing my identity and stealing my details and channeling money into my account that I didn't want, knew nothing about, and when I found out, ordered them that they were to receive it back. Why did they do it? To destroy my reputation. And GoFundMe are the people who did it. Irrespective of who approached them to do it, GoFundMe did it. Charlie Smith says, under British law, GoFundMe have already failed to abide by the Data Protection Act of 2018 and have made criminal offences under the Fraud Act of 2006. How does that translate in Californian law? GoFundMe, of course, was founded in San Diego, California in March 2017. Well, how does it apply with California law? California law is a part of American law. The RICO Act, wire fraud, just regular fraud, identity theft. I mean, the list is almost endless as to all the breaches that have been committed. Let's see what happens. To me, what is the most shocking thing about all of this so far is that having caught them out in a clear-cut case of fraud, they have not behaved correctly. They have behaved shockingly and abominably. Oriel GB says, one hopes, Lady C, that the fraudulent setting up of that account will be resolved quickly for the sake of your peace of mind and in order to save you all the stress associated with it. Well, I would hope that too. That's what I was hoping when I got in touch with them. You know, it puts me in mind of when Sally Farmilo sold a whole load of lies about me to the Daily Express, because Sally was a publicity hound and she would sell anybody down the river to get herself in the newspapers. And we had been at a Boxing Day luncheon together, and she knew I was going back to France, because in those days I spent most of my time in France because my children were at school in France. And she thought, right, I've got the perfect solution. I'm going to sell a whole load of lies to the William Hickey Collin, and Georgie's never going to find out about it because she's not going to be here. And I found out about it. Mary Archer, she phoned me up and told me, and I was still in London. And I said to the secretary of the editor, I said, if you do yourselves a favour, you will give me an apology and a retraction, and we will agree this within 24 hours. Failing which, this is going to cost you very dearly. I said, tell your editor that, and they have 20 minutes in which to get back to me. And they came back to me in 20 minutes and said, well, you know, we're just going to have to investigate it with our lawyers. And I thought, well, we're so big and strong, and we're just going to show you how important we are. And I said, feel free to waste your money. Of course, they ended up having to pay my lawyers tens of thousands of pounds in legal fees. They ended up having to pay me damages. Boris Johnson, when he was editor of The Spectator, again, I did pretty much the same thing. I phoned up. I don't remember now whether I spoke to him or his assistant, but he agreed to give me the apology because he is not stupid, and he immediately saw the flaw in his behaviour. He wasn't the guilty party. It was that jerk, Tacky Theodorakopoulos, tacky by name, tacky by nature, who's never forgiven me for refusing his advances in 1989. You see, people are malicious, not only women, men as well, especially if they're posturing jerks like Tacky Theodorakopoulos and Meghan Markle. Anyway, Boris agreed to give me the apology and then decided that he was going to compose the apology. I said, no, you're not. I will. We can agree, but I'm composing. No, he's a writer. He's going to do it. I said, well, I'm a writer too. And actually, I've published more than he has. So I don't know where he thought he was going to run the writer race with me and win. But anyway, the vanity of people and their delusionalism is outstanding, especially when they're up against a woman, and especially a woman who was known for her looks when she was younger. And if a woman is slight as well, if she's a big sow, everybody is perfectly happy to acknowledge her as a human being. But if she is slight and has been known active, she can't have a brain in her head, even though they all have evidence to the contrary, and she's the ideal victim. So anyway, I said, right, I'll sue you, and did. Cost them a lot of money too. I think this is going to shape up to be that. But this is not this GoFundMe is an American company. The crimes they have committed are in America and spread all over the world. They obviously are intent on giving me a huge retirement fund. And shall I tell you something? I'm going to make sure I get it. And the longer this lasts, is the more it's going to cost them. Not only in terms of fees, legal fees, but in terms of damages. So, and yes, am I distressed by it? Beyond outraged. Has it affected my peace of mind? Well, it's certainly got my dander up. And does it increase the stress levels? Absolutely. And they're going to pay for the whole lot. Sally H. says, good for you, Lady C. They picked the wrong one to set up this scam. Thank you. My sentiments exactly. Not that I enjoy having to be Boadicea. Poor Lady Susan Hussey was a much softer touch. Yes, she was, poor darling. Their scams and plots are spiteful and vicious, with no care how it will ruin people's lives. Why would they care? We're not human. We're white. Let's not forget that. There's a tremendous racist element in all of this. Tremendous racist element. Do you think they'd be doing this to me if I were black? You can believe me, there's no way they would be doing this to me if I were black. The race baiting that ghastly Markle woman has set about creating in the world generally and made it acceptable for people to race bait is outrageous. I mean, I don't know if any of you have heard, this is totally off base, about Andrew Gold. He is a YouTuber, and he had somebody called Amy Gallagher on his show. It was referred to me, and I looked at it. She was a psychotherapist, a student at the Tavistock Clinic, and because she wanted academic intercourse with regard to critical race theory and wanted the scientific process abided by, where everything is questioned, they got rid of her. They destroyed her career. And they kept on using Meghan Markle and her race baiting and her being a victim as an example. Meghan Markle is truly one of the most destructive people to have entered public life. The woman deserves to be expunged. Let me continue. Their plots and schemes are spiteful and vicious, with no care how it will ruin people's lives. Their karma is coming via you, Lady C, and I'm happily waiting to witness it. Well, it's very sweet of you to say that. If that is my fate, I embrace my fate. I have always stepped up to the plate. I have certainly not had the life that I would have imagined at 16 and 18 or even 26 that I would have. I was going to have a typical upper-class Jamaican St. Andrew life. Hasn't worked out like that. So, well, it's been a heck of a lot more interesting and a heck of a lot more turbulent and a heck of a lot more stressful, but I believe that it is up to each of us to embrace our destiny and to meet the challenges that life presents to us. Now, some people will call it life, some people will call it God. I mean, I try to avoid using religious terms because not everybody believes in God, but I certainly believe in God. And I fully intend, if, depending on how GoFundMe play this, to put my foot on that accelerator and not only mow the whole lot of them down, but everybody who pops up on my radar, all the way to wherever it leads, whether it is Montecito or Rome. Let us see if that, because you see there is a process called discovery. And there is little doubt in my mind that I need to be aware of the fact that there are certain previous instances where litigation has not been handled correctly. For instance, the Prince Andrew case. Judge Kaplan went out of his way to destroy Prince Andrew's possibility of prevailing. On the face of it, there would seem to be little incentive for anybody, irrespective of their affiliations, to have judgments that would be antithetical not only to justice, but to the preservation of the privacy, and to collude with keeping private the actual orchestrators of this plot, because it is a plot. Of course, the possibility does exist, and we are fully aware of that fact. We will choose our locus very carefully. They're not dealing with unsophisticates and fools. They are unsophisticated and they're stupid. If they weren't unsophisticated and stupid, they wouldn't have come up with a cap-handed plan like this, which they've not even been able to bring off. So, personally speaking, I would much rather not have to be the architect of justice and retribution for the wrongdoing that has been done to so many people all over the world, starting with the king himself. But if that it emerges is what my fate is, I've stood up always to what I should be doing, and I will continue to do so, and let the chips fall where they may. So, let's leave it at that. Lorraine Gunn says, perhaps an employee of the GoFundMe company perpetrated this fraud. Oh, there's no doubt that by their own account, that an employee of GoFundMe did perpetrate the fraud. The account was set up by GoFundMe at GoFundMe, within GoFundMe, without my knowledge, consent, or approval. That is fraud. That is identity theft. And we will end with what Rebecca D says. I look forward to your very public apology from this company. Also, the persons responsible for this should be taken to court and dealt with legally. I look forward to finding out how, who, and why this was done. Well, I'll tell you how litigation works, Rebecca D. You sue, you make various complaints, you shoot your arrows at bullseye, and when they hit, there are consequences. Now, really, GoFundMe has a few choices. One is to continue on the stupid path that they have taken so far, which only antagonizes and alienates me further, which means that ultimately they're going to pay more dearly. So that's the first choice. The second choice is to start to treat with me seriously and compensate me for the injury and distress that they have caused to date. So deal with it quickly and justly. So they have to deal with it justly. And because this is about justice as well. And this is about them respecting the laws that they have signed up to and that they use against other people and use hopefully for the benefit of their company. And remember, it's not a publicly listed company either. So there will be very few people calling the shots in this one. Won't it be interesting to see where the paper trail leads back to and how you can then add up the connections between X, Y, Z, A, B, and C. But of course, my experience, and it goes back with 50 years of litigation against all the major newspaper companies in this country and the largest insurance company, is that the arrogance and the stupidity of people in the decision-making process cannot be exaggerated until it's too late. So let us see what happens, because they have another choice, which is to fight it. And the more they fight it, is the worse it's going to be for them. So let us see what happens. There are other choices, but we won't even go there because they're not appropriate to mention on this forum. So on that note, I'll say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. Please keep the questions and comments coming in so I will know what you would like us to be speaking about. Thank you so much. Take good care and God bless. And if you have truly enjoyed this, would you care to like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and Godspeed. Bye-bye.